Spanish Grand Prix in the dry. Maybe the clouds will build up later, but it's hot and sunny so far. And here's the starting grid. Only 18 cars on the starting grid today because Lance Stroll has withdrawn from the race because of pain from his wrist injuries, and Yuki Tsunoda will line up in the pit lane today after Red Bull changed his suspension. Franco Colapinto last on the grid then for Alpine, and Carlos Sainz, his worst ever start at his home Grand Prix, is 17th. Ahead of these two, Esteban Ocon, his worst qualifying in Barcelona, has Nico Hülkenberg in the Sauber for company. Ollie Bearman has his highest start since Suzuka. Ahead of him, Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls. And then a best qualifying result in Formula One so far for the man in P12, Gabriel Bortoleto. Alex Albon has Williams' best qualifying here in 9 years. Fernando Alonso starts 10th alongside him, Isaac Hadjar, who was watching PSG win the Champions League last night, alongside the man who starts a place ahead of him, Pierre Gasly for Alpine. Charles Leclerc starts 7th for Ferrari, outside the top 4 on the grid here for the 3rd consecutive season. It's 6th on the grid for Kimi Antonelli, alongside Lewis Hamilton, his best Grand Prix start equal for Ferrari. George Russell starts 4th and led the opening lap from there last year. Max Verstappen's outside the top 3 on the grid here for the first time since 2020, and it's a McLaren front row lockout for the first time since 1998 in Barcelona. Lando Norris starts 2nd, and Oscar Piastri on pole for the 4th time this season. We are set fair then, Nico Rosberg, for an intriguing, exciting, enthralling Spanish Grand Prix and a run down to turn 1 that is always one of the best of the season.
I am on the edge of my seat because this starting lineup has everything to offer, and that run down to turn 1, as you said, is so long. We've seen so many times people come from behind and jump past the guy in pole. Let's hope we see it again today, just for some excitement.
Where would you rather start today if you had the choice? Would it be a 3rd pole here in Barcelona for Nico Rosberg, or do you want the slipstream from 2nd, 3rd or 4th?
100% it would be pole position, because normally you still should be able to get a good run off the clean side of the grid. There's more grip there because that's where everybody's driving all weekend. Nobody ever drives on the inside, so more grip there, should have a good start. And then you can always cover the inside and block anybody off and then brake late, and you should be okay. But as I said, if you don't get that start 100% right in the position of Oscar Piastri, those guys behind are going to slipstream flat out.
Pressure is on Piastri then. Starting tyres are out. Bernie Collins at Sky Race Control. What a surprise. Not. They're all on the same tyre, bar one.
Yeah, exactly, Crofty. Everyone on the soft tyre, apart from Yuki Tsunoda from the pit lane, on a medium tyre. One thing to watch out for, Crofty, in that top 10, the 2 McLarens on a new soft tyre versus Verstappen and Russell behind on used soft tyres. So what difference will that make off the line? You can see the shine of the tyres there.
Yeah, you can also see Ollie Bearman from P14 on a new set of soft tyres as well, and his teammate Esteban Ocon. That just gives you a bit more confidence, doesn't it, knowing that you've got the perfect grip off the line if you're on a new set.
Yes, of course, that's the best start to be in, of course. And don't think this is a relaxing moment. This practice start is critical for your race start that's coming up, so you're already fully concentrated and trying to do the most of this start to feel where does the clutch need to be, where's the grip of the tires. It's like it's a super critical moment just there.
When the cars came out of the pits, when you were down on the grid a little earlier, Oscar Piastri came out, George Russell was right behind him, and I swear George Russell was taking a nice wide line into turn 1 and practicing swinging that Mercedes in the way that he did last year, and he was almost racing Oscar Piastri on this straight all the way up to turn 4. You used to do that yourself once upon a time, get a little practice in?
All of those things matters. It's all part of the preparation, and it was also smart from George because most likely he's going to be stuck behind someone else in the first couple of laps, and so he was checking his car balance when stuck behind someone else and setting it up accordingly. So that was a very smart move from George.
Carlos Sainz has it all to do in the Williams from P17 here today. What about, we talked about McLaren, what about the Red Bulls, the Mercedes, the Ferraris? Of those three, where's your race pace better money going?
Well, the McLarens had the best race pace. Max Verstappen was very close just with Max Verstappen magic, whilst we see everybody just standing on the brake and suddenly slowing down. I think Oscar was slowing down to get everybody to catch up, so he doesn't need to wait too long on the grid because then the tires cool down too much. The ones who were a little bit off were Mercedes, so George Russell on Friday was a little bit off, so that's a little bit of a concern for them. And then we have Lewis in his Ferrari. He was strong on Friday, and we know that he wants to be on the podium today.
He's not exactly sluggish around this circuit, is Lewis Hamilton. 6 Grand Prix wins, equal most with Michael Schumacher. In the pit lane for us this afternoon, Anthony Davidson. Afternoon, Ant.
Hi, Crofty. Yeah, looking forward to this one. Piastri, meanwhile, has been on the radio to his engineer asking how his last launch was from the grid there. His engineer comes back on saying the clutch stroke was 1% shallow and the clutch timing was late. He's going to have to adapt that one when everything's counting and they start here.
And if you want to ride on board with Oscar Piastri or anyone at the start of this race, you can do so. You need your Sky Sports app, your Sky Sports ID to log in with, or if you're watching on Sky Q, Sky Stream, Sky Glass, or now, use the interactive button on your remote control.
So what he was talking about there with the clutch position, the first drop of the clutch, 1%, that was very accurate. But then he was too slow to further release the clutch after that, and so he was losing out a lot of performance down the straight. So let's hope he sorted that out now for the main start.
Max Verstappen's led 139 of the last 150 racing laps here in Barcelona, but he starts 3rd on the grid today, 2nd row alongside George Russell. It is McLaren on the front row for the first time, locking it out since 1998. They haven't won here since 2005, May the 8th, the day that Ollie Behrman was born. Can they end that barren streak in the next 66 laps? It's all eyes to the screens at the moment. If you're in the garages, it's all eyes focused on the gantry above their heads, waiting for the lights to go on. We've got a green flag. We've got 2, 3, 4 and 5 lights. It's lights out and away we go. Oscar Piastri is away very well indeed. Russell trying to pick up a slipstream and now moves out from behind Lando Norris. Piastri's got the jump, and they're 3 abreast coming at him from behind. Piastri into turn 1. Verstappen with Norris on the inside. Verstappen gets ahead. Hamilton goes round the outside of George Russell. Kimi Antonelli takes to the escape route. That was a perfect start for Oscar Piastri as Gasly and Hadjar battle away. Verstappen picking up a place already.
Wow, what a brilliant, exceptional start from Oscar Piastri. So he listened to his engineer, he dropped that clutch much faster in the second phase and absolutely stormed away. And what a great start from Max Verstappen too.
And there is Charles Leclerc going down the inside at turn 5 on George Russell. He's lost out to 2 Ferraris on the opening lap.
Horrible start for George Russell, because that Ferrari is quick on race pace also, so once he's behind, it's going to be so hard to get back in front of them.
Gotta say, it's a bit of a dream start for Ferrari, this one. Mercedes with overheating problems on their tyres. They knew this was going to be a struggle. They didn't think it was going to happen this soon. There's Gasly with Hadjar behind him. Fernando Alonso down into turn 10 trying to make an impression. Nico Hülkenberg's got ahead of his teammate Gabriel Bortoleto on the opening lap. There were 3 cars going wide at turn 1. There was definitely 2 Saubers amongst that. Round the outside goes Hadjar. Alonso pushing him all the way. And while that's happening, Oscar Piastri completes lap 1 of this Spanish Grand Prix. He's 8/10 clear of Max Verstappen. Then Norris, Hamilton, Leclerc and Russell, Antonelli, Gasly, Hadjar, and Alonso completes the top 10.
So Max now has to go straight into like race mode, managing those tires and trying to stay as close as possible to Piastri now. That's what he needs to try and do.
Nico Hülkenberg from 15th on the grid is up into the points. What a move on Fernando Alonso into turn 1. Alonso will try and go round the outside at turn 3, and there was almost no gap there. Alonso drove into a disappearing gap and came out unscathed as he gets past Gabriel Bortoleto, but Hülkenberg gets the place back again. Sauber and Aston Martin scrapping wheel to wheel in these opening stages.
Wow, that's such a brilliant fight to watch. Always these 2 cars wide, you know, through these long corners, because on the inside you have the guy in front, so you lose so much downforce from the turbulence, and that's why the outside can work beautifully, as Alonso just showed there.
So we're on board with Fernando Alonso. He's down in 11th place. His Spanish compatriot Carlos Sainz might have a bit of damage on the front right side of his Williams. We'll get a replay of the starts in a moment, but Alonso has got a lot of work to do this afternoon. Out in front, Oscar Piastri is not exactly disappearing into the distance. DRS is enabled now, and Max Verstappen is well within a second of our race leader. Lando Norris has dropped back just a little bit. He's lost 9/10 to Verstappen on lap 2 of this race. There, Verstappen just has a little look on Oscar Piastri, just to remind the Australian that he's there.
Wow, Max is fast. He's very fast, but he has to be so careful because they're on the soft tire. He needs to really judge it well now. When do I push Oscar Piastri? Should I wait a little bit, hang back, and not destroy my tires, or should I go now as hard as I can and try and jump in front? It's a very difficult decision for him to make.
I asked around, I said, what's the perfect strategy here if you're stuck behind another car? And it was strategy 1, try and overtake. Strategy 2, try and force the driver ahead into pushing a bit harder than he really wants to. And if that all fails, quickly drop back about 3.5 seconds behind the car in front. Otherwise, your tyres are going to get chewed up.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think at the moment, it's really... Verstappen can't pass Piastri on race pace right now.
They're moving and braking today. What's going on?
George, concentrate.
Flustered.
Wow, Toto himself coming on.
Yeah, really flustered, George Russell there.
Yeah.
I wonder if Verstappen is going to need to start dropping back a bit, and he's lost 7/10 to Oscar Piastri in the middle sector on this current lap.
It's not realistic to pass Piastri now. He needs to just stay very close, drop back, manage those tires. It's the end of the stint when Piastri's tires drop out. That's where his opportunity can come potentially. That might be the best one.
So, in single file, they stream over the line once again, and the gap that was 0.6 of a second between Piastri and Verstappen, with the fastest lap of the race, Piastri's extended to 1.5 seconds. Hadjar and Gasly, I wonder if they were talking about this race last night while they were watching their team win 5-0. Maybe not. They're certainly enjoying themselves out there and having a right old ding-dong. Just a few car lengths in it, and Oscar Piastri just keeps pulling out to maybe try and go for a gap, and a gap that isn't quite there. Currently going very wide there, Nico Hülkenberg behind the Racing Bull.
No, so what they're doing is they're offsetting each other from the car in front to avoid the turbulence, because even if maybe out wide there's a little bit of marbles, it's still much more grip if you're away from that turbulence from the car in front. That's why they're doing different lines there.
Hülkenberg, who's only finished higher than 10th once here in 11 Grand Prix starts. He was 6th in 2017 for Force India, currently the last driver in the top 10 spots. But it's Oscar Piastri, who had to play second fiddle to his teammate in Monaco last time out, who has now a 2-second advantage over Max Verstappen. Lando Norris with Lewis Hamilton a second back, currently riding in 3rd. Charles Leclerc sitting about a second behind his teammate, currently in 5th. George Russell on the last lap, round about 0.4 of a second slower than Charles Leclerc. He's dropping back a bit. Antonelli is in 7th place, then comes Gasly, then Hadjar, and then Hülkenberg, who's a bit closer now to Hadjar than Hadjar is to Pierre Gasly. Yuki Tsunoda on the medium tyre is still plumb last in this race, and this was the start. They were not held for very long, and Piastri, great start, and I tell you what, Antonelli had to move over, didn't he, because Charles Leclerc was coming through.
That was so close to a crash, because Lewis had a bad start, pulled over, and almost squashed Leclerc between Antonelli and himself. That was very, very close.
And there we see Antonelli bailing out, and there we see Bortoleto and Hülkenberg and also Carlos Sainz, I think, bailing out as well into that escape road. It's all settled down a bit.
How can George lose that position to Leclerc when he was...
well, he lost the position to Leclerc later on,
I know, but he was in such a comfortable position, actually. Not great that he lost that position afterwards.
And this was where Lando Norris lost the position to Max Verstappen.
He was playing the championship game there. He has to be careful. He cannot afford to lose points in a crash to Oscar Piastri, and he knows Max Verstappen is not going to give way. So it's either you're careful or you might crash.
This was Lewis Hamilton's start. There's his teammate, Charles Leclerc, coming at him. Then Lewis picks up the slipstream, and ahead of him, opportunities open up. Dances round the outside. Very neat.
That's the moment where in the helmet you're like, yes! That was awesome.
I'm sure. Nico Hülkenberg's been noted for leaving the track and gaining an advantage, by the way. This is Liam Lawson. I think that is where Fernando Alonso got hit by the Racing Bulls. Now we can ride on board with Hülkenberg and see what he did at the start.
He probably benefited from that collision right ahead of him, right?
Yeah.
And some person on the left almost got shunted as well. Wow, how did he make up so many places? Oh, so it's Albon on the left who has to do avoiding action. That definitely cost Alex. Oh my goodness, his front wing is damaged.
Yeah, that is a not so rigid front wing on the Williams there. And Franco Colapinto, I think, has been on the team radio to complain about those incidents as well. And, well, there were drivers leaving the track. They might have gained an advantage, but they went down the escape route and they did everything that they were meant to do.
Yeah, I think it looked fine overall. Do you know who's struggling a little bit at the moment is Lewis. And Charles looks extremely quick at this point in time of the race.
Williams telling out Alex Albon to box. DRS here for Charles Leclerc. He's coming at Lewis. Is Lewis going to defend this too eagerly? He is, you know. He's not letting Charles Leclerc past. Race, Charles Leclerc with 2 new sets of medium tyres should be the faster Ferrari because of that tyre advantage. Is it worth Ferrari playing the strategy game here and saying, Lewis, let him go through?
I tell you what, if I was Lewis's engineer now, I would say, Lewis, give it everything, pick up that pace, because otherwise that call is going to come very soon. Let your teammate by for a chance to get a podium.
So it's Alex Albon with the damage in the Williams, and stops there to replace his front wing back into this race. Really not going according to plan for Alex Albon, and missed a chunk of time in FP2. Didn't do FP1 because Victor Martins was in his car.
We can push on these tyres now. They're up to 7. We want to try and pass Verstappen.
So let me explain that for you. In the first 2 laps, that's when the temperatures shoot up from being in a cold condition, and they shoot over the ideal temperature, and it's in that peak where you create the most damage. And so that's why in these first couple of 4, 5, 6 laps, you want to manage that peak and not like create unnecessary damage. And as the engineers see the temperature, and in the car you see it as well, the temperature tires coming down again, then you can start to push a bit more. And we're seeing the pressure that Leclerc is putting here on Lewis. I just saw Lewis in turn 7. He's really struggling with the rear end. Look at that rear end moving all the time. It's just snapping and snapping and snapping. He's just really uncomfortable in that car. Really not good to see. I don't know what's going on. I mean, that's not normal that Leclerc can follow so closely.
Well, at this stage, Charles Leclerc is getting close enough to Lewis Hamilton to shout out, I want to come past. Into turn 5 we go. No gap appearing as yet. We'll get DRS in a few corners' time to try and make a move into turn 10 if he's close enough.
But unfortunately, the team has to do it soon, because Charles, with the new tyre and the pace he has a small chance of maybe keeping up with the guys in front. And so I guess, unfortunately, they have to do it pretty soon.
Well, it's those 2 new sets of medium tyres that are going to pay dividends for Charles Leclerc later in this race. And now they've cleared Mercedes, Ferrari in a much stronger position than they thought they might be in the opening stages of this race. A race, Bernie Collins, I'm told, is a tyre temperature race as well, with the engineers watching how hot or cold those tyres are getting.
Yes, exactly, Crofty. And I don't know if it's ultimately about the tyres or about something else, but Leclerc has been told he needs more lift and coast for tyres for exactly that reason, to bring the temperature down. To pick up on Nico's point, Hamilton is...
He's going for it, Bernie. I'll interrupt you for 2 seconds. Charles Leclerc trying to get past Lewis Hamilton into turn 1. Nothing doing. And Nico Rosberg shaking his head alongside me.
No, I mean, I'm shaking my head because Lewis is 1 second a lap slower at the moment.
So Norris.
So unfortunately they just have to swap and give Leclerc a chance. If it doesn't work out, you can always kind of swap back later or something, but it's not nice to say it, but that's the way it is at the moment.
Bernie, back to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Lewis Hamilton be given an engine brake and change, so that's to help the stability of the rear of that car, which Nico picked up on.
Thanks ever so much indeed. Yuki Tsunoda pitting early to get rid of his medium compound tyre, and also Ollie Bearman coming in for an early stop too. So Albon moves ahead and into 18th place, and the rest of the top 10 stay as they are, and Nico Hülkenberg can breathe a bit more easily because the stewards have said no further investigation for when he left the track and allegedly gained an advantage. And finally, Ferrari are saying swap positions with Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they have the Sky feed on their pit wall, so they were listening in on our advice, and of course made the call. But
you realise someone's going to take that seriously there.
Oh, sorry. But this is, can I just say also, this is horrible for Lewis in this situation. You're in that car, it sucks so much. It's so horrible that you have to wave your teammate past. It's like he's the 7-time world champion. He's the greatest, and here he is waving this young teammate by. That's not fun.
No, it's not fun at all for the team. I think it's the right decision at this time. Hülkenberg now comes into the pit. These are early stops. The pit window open, but these are early stops in the race. If it's a 2-stop strategy, they are going to have to make those medium tyres run a bit longer, I think, than they were originally intended. Carlos Sainz into the pits, and there may be a little bit of damage on that Sainz Williams, because that's a very long pit stop. He was stationary for 11 seconds.
I think they swapped the front wing. I couldn't really see that, but I think maybe it wasn't Albon's front wing and it was Sainz's front wing.
there is Max Verstappen, and a lot closer to him now is Lando Norris. So Norris, who's been told you can push those tyres a little bit more, is definitely getting on with the job, and he is now within 1 second of Max Verstappen. He's getting about 20 kilometers an hour of extra pace with that DRS down the main straights. That's in the McLaren. The Red Bull, a little bit more effective with its DRS, probably running about 25 kph when it's got that DRS of extra pace. And even with that extra pace, not enough to get Lando Norris back. Pierre Gasly is the latest one to pit. We can see here the Red Bull of Yuki Tsunoda. They changed his rear wing to give him a little bit more stability at the rear, and that's him getting past Alex Albon as Gasly goes out into this race, and he's changed from a set of soft tyres to another set of soft compound tyres.
That is very surprising, isn't it? I don't really understand why he would do that.
Yeah, he came in to try and avoid the undercut from Nico Hülkenberg, which he has done, but only just. Hülkenberg now on those medium tyres, and he's going to push Gasly all the way through turn 3 and up to turn 4 here. The undercut very, very powerful. You stop before the car in front, you try to make a little gain by getting the use of some fresh tyres before your opponent can react, and it very nearly works out for Sauber, but Gasly seems to have held that one off for the time being, and Lando Norris has just eked out a couple of tenths on this lap of Verstappen's advantage.
No grip. Where to them, that is.
Yeah, copy that. Understood.
So is this another race, Nico Rosberg, where we're seeing the McLaren's better tyre wear coming into play?
Lando's coming closer and closer. He's gonna go for that overtake at some point soon.
Well, he's gonna have to go around the outside this time, and nothing doing on this occasion.
Yeah, he had a little go now, but it's a critical moment of the race now for Lando, because Max clearly, especially on these tyres, maybe it might change still later, but on these tyres, he's not fighting for the win here. He doesn't quite have the pace, and Lando is losing too much time to Oscar now. He has to try and get past Max Verstappen as quickly as possible, pile on the pressure, but as we just saw there, it's just going to be so hard for him to get past.
It's not an easy track to overtake. It's got better since we got rid of the chicane a few years ago, and the overtaking stats have jumped up with that, but it's when you get a tyre offset, where one set of tyres are better than the other.
Oscar, tyre update, please. How's the tyre?
Struggling a little bit with the rear now.
That's when you start to get more overtakes. So if Max Verstappen's tyres are going off and Lando Norris has kept his new soft compound tyres in better shape, then Norris will get better launches out of the corners.
That's also an indication of just having so much more grip. Do you see how tight Norris was able to go in that corner, and he was just rapid coming out? He's going to get a shot at overtaking very, very soon.
Yeah.
If not on this lap.
Well, this is the closest he's been, Lando Norris. He's had a little go, didn't he, on the previous lap, a half attempt. This could be a full send it down the inside or dance around the outside. He's going to try and send it down the inside. Verstappen's not even defending this one because he knows that it's a little bit futile and that Lando Norris has that extra grip, and it's McLaren back 1 and 2 here as Norris makes the place, moves up into second.
Okay, that was critical. The race is on now between Lando and Oscar. Let's see what pace Lando has now. The problem is, of course, he was sliding around more following Verstappen, so he's put more damage into his tires in these first couple of laps compared to Oscar, who's in free air. But let's see what he can do.
Lots of chatter on the pit wall. Randeep Singh overseeing the strategy at McLaren, and Hannah Schmitz overseeing the strategy at Red Bull. The gap between Piastri and Norris, as you can see on your screen, about 4.3 seconds. Meanwhile, this is Gabriel Bortoleto in 11th place with Liam Lawson ahead of him. Big move this for Bortoleto if he can get up into the top 10 where he hasn't run a single lap so far this year. Before this race, and that is how Liam Lawson managed to get past him down into turn 1. They haven't stopped yet. Gasly, Hülkenberg, Behrman, Tsunoda, Albon and Sainz, who are the slowest 6 drivers, or the last 6 drivers, all have been into the pits.
Crofty, Lando up half a second on Oscar Piastri on that lap, as we see the most experienced driver going into the gravel on his own.
It's like he was doing a crest to run, not turn 5. Max Verstappen pits. He will come out. Hope Red Bull in front of Isaac Hadjar. There goes Kimi Antonelli. Here comes Isaac Hadjar. He's not going to beat the Racing Bulls out of the pits. So Verstappen suffering with that tyre wear, making an early stop, comes back out 8th in the race. Anthony, down to you.
So Verstappen clearly, and Red Bull changing their attention to what's behind them. As soon as that overtake was made here, as we see Ocon down the inside, inside into turn 1. Does he make it stick? No, he doesn't, with Alonso on his outside. So Alonso's got back up to speed. But yeah, clearly Red Bull. That's why he didn't defend Norris. That's not his race today. Now they're looking behind them. They want to consolidate what they have. Leclerc made that move on Hamilton, and that was critical. Russell was not too far behind now, just 1.7 seconds behind Hamilton as well. I'm sure he's lining up later on. So now it's all about Red Bull looking behind them what they can do, and that's why they just pitted.
And at race control, Bernie Collins.
Yeah, so just to pick up on that, Crofty, I think those that have stopped already look like they've committed to the 3-stop strategy, which there wasn't a lot of talk about before, but that's where they're going. Alonso, as soon as he went off track there, on the phone to the radio, or the pit wall, saying, we need to commit to something. Are we doing a 2 or are we doing a 3? He's been told about the guys behind. They need to make a decision which way they're going, which is what Verstappen is doing.
A 3-stop on paper, Nico, is not the fastest way to do this race, but we've seen Max Verstappen convert and switch strategy in a race to great effect. We've seen Lewis Hamilton do it. You can keep your options alive and make that change and make it work.
Yeah, absolutely, but it's too early to say what they've done now, but certainly interesting to stop that early.
Fernando Alonso we saw going off the track at turn 5. He's been noted for rejoining unsafely. Hasn't gone to the stewards as yet, as Colapinto pits now for Williams, and that gap staying steady out in front. Oscar Piastri 4 seconds clear of Lando Norris. Then it's back to Leclerc and Hamilton and Russell, who, if they want to respond to what Max Verstappen is trying, have probably well, left it a bit late to respond and be ahead of Max Verstappen. So if they've gone to a 3-stop at Red Bull, Ferrari in Leclerc, Hamilton, Mercedes with Russell and the 2 leaders, content with a 2-stopper currently at the moment. What it means is, Nico, we've got to keep our wits about us, because we might not know who the genuine leader is of this race until much later on.
That is correct. Let's keep an eye on Lando and Oscar now. Oscar has kind of responded and has accelerated and improved his pace. So now it's really equal lap times between the two. But that's still strong from Lando because his tires are more worn, so it's still a good indication for Lando.
Into turn 10 we go with Max Verstappen. Isaac Hadjar hasn't stopped yet, Verstappen has. It just feels like an age that you're in that corner trying to get the car slowed down enough, but Verstappen did that, and a nice move there to move up to 7th and setting a new fastest lap in the process. But on the soft tyre once again. You've got to run 2 different types of compounds during the race, so there's at least 1 more stop coming for Max, we know that. Maybe another 2, as into the pits comes the 1 remaining Aston Martin, and it's Fernando Alonso. On will go the medium tyres in that Aston Martin, and he's back out onto the track as the stewards say that he did rejoin safely as he made his way back onto the track. There's no further investigation needed. Alonso, though, down now into 17th place for an Aston Martin team who thought they've got about the 6th fastest car in this race today.
Have you ever seen a Fernando Alonso go off in a race just completely on his own?
No,
in a relaxed situation.
Not unless it's pouring with rain. And that's what it kind of looked like, didn't it? He was just sliding away. Lewis Hamilton is being told to come in for a pit stop at Ferrari. His teammate Charles Leclerc carries on down the main straight. Leclerc running in the top 3 now after Verstappen's pit stop, and Hamilton to the pit lane where he puts on the limiter, 80 kilometers an hour.
It's a long way to go. Protecting undercut.
So they're trying to protect the undercut. So stopping first before anyone around might want to get their stop in.
Okay, now Lewis's engineer should build him up again and say, hey Lewis, okay, different tire on now, medium tire, it's working better out there, let's reset, let's go from here.
And it is a new set of medium tyres that goes on to Lewis's Ferrari. He comes out in 9th place. The key there is they've got him out ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto.
And full push, please.
Charles Leclerc is coming in.
Already.
Just to remind his team, he is pushing as hard as he can already. You think they know that?
Yeah, but that's not really true. If you know that you have just 1 lap to go or something, there's always a little bit more you can do. Just maximum attack.
So here's your tyre offsets. Max Verstappen on new tyres, Kimi Antonelli on tyres that he's been running for 18 laps, and that's why he's gone very, very wide through turn 10. And Verstappen might like to dance around the outside of the Mercedes towards the top of the hill, and he does just that, moving up into 5th place and making a pass where you don't normally see one. Leclerc will now pit, as Verstappen will move up another place with this pit stop, and Antonelli will move past Charles Leclerc too, and that looked like a decent pit stop for a Ferrari team that's been fastest in the pits at 7 of the 8 Grand Prix that we've had prior to this one this season. He comes out behind Isaac Hadjar and ahead of Liam Lawson and his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Nicely done by Ferrari.
Yep. Such a variety of strategies at the moment. Let's see how this plays out.
You're confused, yeah?
Yes, I am confused, yes. Well, no, everybody's confused because you just do not know how it's going to play out.
That's why we got Bernie Collins in the spreadsheet in the commentary box. Don't worry about it. We'll keep you up to date with this one. This is the move by Max. Don't often see a pass here, do you? Nicely done.
Wow, incredible. Because outside is where there's the marbles, so there's less grip, like mechanically. Incredible, the grip difference.
Those marbles, by the way, there's little bits of rubber that come off the tyres and settle at the edge of the track. It can take you up to a couple of laps to clean those marbles off your tyres.
You're right, Crofty.
Why did you pull me in so early?
We are protecting for a possible undercut from behind.
Bernie Collins, that radio message about the undercut and Lewis Hamilton, who were they protecting from?
Well, they're protecting from both Mercedes, Russell being the closest one to them in that instance, Crofty. And he was just quite close to Hamilton, and that's what they're saying. They didn't want Russell to box first and come out ahead. They don't think they necessarily would have the pace to overtake them, but they do have the pace to stay ahead if they can at this stage. The problem is that lap 17 stop is a bit on the early side to stay on the 2 stop for a driver that has only 1 medium and 1 hard left to go to. So can he defend from Russell for the next 2 stints? That's the big question. That Hamilton knows that, and that's why he's asking the pit wall, is it not too early? Leclerc in a slightly stronger position, have we discussed, with 2 medium available.
George Russell not fighting Max Verstappen down into turn 7. That's another place gained by the 4-time world champion and the man who's won here in each of the last 3 years, and he's back up into the podium places now behind Norris and Piastri. And we've not seen much of the McLarens recently. The gap was about 4 seconds. Piastri's extended that now. He's protected against the undercut from Norris by putting nearly 5 seconds between himself and his teammate.
Yeah, it just goes to show that he was managing his tyres a lot. Now at the end of the stint he's starting to push and can extract more.
Fernando Alonso was running plumb last in this race for a while. This is how he managed to get round Franco Colapinto. You'd never tire of seeing a car overtake through turn 3.
Spectacular.
Pretty good for Fernando, who needs a little bit of more luck in races at the moment. Hasn't scored so far this season. He, along with Gabriel Portoletto, running in every race so far, and the 2 that haven't scored a point who have run in every race, and that was pretty slick too.
Wow, I mean, that looked simple, but may I just tell you that was one hell of a lunge there, and you don't normally go for a lunge in that corner. That was impressive.
Hulkenberg gets ahead of Ocon. There's Behrman getting ahead of the Racing Bulls of Isaac Hadjar. So Behrman moves up into 11th. He's stopped in this race so far. Ocon hasn't stopped, currently running in 10th. Hadjar now back ahead of Behrman.
How far do you think we can get?
Lap 25 possible.
Possible, but difficult.
Be ideal for their strategy if he could. Antonelli and Russell haven't stopped. Norris and Piastri haven't stopped in this race. The rest all have. And so that pit window, you know, pitting between lap 10 and 19, if you can go to 25, you are really keeping things alive for your 2nd and 3rd stints.
Yeah, absolutely incredible that how conservative the McLaren car is on those tyres. As we see George coming in, his lap times are really dropping off.
So not a surprise, really. He's going to come out behind Leclerc, and he's going to come out behind Hamilton, but there's a nice long gap back to Pierre Gasly. Is that car in the distance rounding the final corner? So Mercedes have got George Russell in and out, and crucially out into some free air. makes such a difference here if you can get free air to run into.
Yeah, huge. Makes a huge difference. That turbulence, these cars are so sensitive to that. You lose so much grip, you slide so much more, you damage the tires so much more.
So the gap between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen is about 15 seconds at the moment, and out into the sunshine come the McLaren crew, and I think this is going to be for Lando Norris. It is going to be for Lando Norris, making his way in for another pit stop. Piastri's going to extend and make things a bit more comfortable for him to the end of the race, or the second and third stints. And they're protecting against Kimi Antonelli, who hasn't stopped yet. Nice slick stop by the McLaren crew. He's back out again. Verstappen will move into second place, and Norris will come out on his own in third. But crucially, with fresher tyres now than Max Verstappen, who's had 8 laps on this current set of soft tyres, and he can push a little bit harder on those mediums. As Antonelli now makes his pit stop. Almost looked like testing was going on there. It was just so calm in the pit lane, wasn't it? Birdie, to you.
Yeah, I just want to come in there on that pit stop for Norris. That was because as the Mercedes are stopping, it's opened a nice window behind Verstappen for them to box into. So as soon as they've got the Mercedes out of the way, they've got a nice clear bit on track behind Verstappen, and that's what they're both going for.
Antonelli comes out behind Gasly, who stopped that much earlier, and ahead of Hulkenberg. And they're coming out into the sunshine again at McLaren, right in front of our commentary box. The crew are standing by and waiting for Oscar Piastri, the race leader, to make his stop. And there should be enough time for this, Piastri to get in and get out alongside Max Verstappen. But will he be ahead or will he be behind? The undercut from Red Bull that was taken about 8 laps ago, will that give Verstappen the lead of this race? And you know what? I think it is going to give him the lead of this race for the time being. Verstappen moves past Piastri and back into the lead of a Spanish Grand Prix that he's led for many, many laps in the past.
Yeah, just that, of course, Max Verstappen's tires are very worn by now. Oscar is going to be so much quicker, so I think he should be flying by at some point very, very soon. Lando did have a slow stop. His stop was 3 seconds. Oscar 2.2. Those 8/10ths, they don't sound like much, but it is a lot. I mean, to catch that back up again on the racetrack, it's very, very difficult.
That was a race that was won by Max by just about 2 seconds last year over Lando Norris, so 8/10ths. It means a huge amount. The pit lane in a couple of seconds. We're on board with Isaac Hadjar. Nico Hulkenberg is the car ahead of him, and he stays ahead into turn 1. And down to you.
Yeah, Crofty, as I was looking at Norris when he came in, checking what the team would do with the front flap, they left it. I was surprised because before that pit stop, he was complaining it was the rear tyres dropping away. So I thought, I was fully expecting them to go down to the front wing during the pit stop and putting on the mediums and just take out a little bit of front wing, but that didn't happen. So let's see what happens in this stint. Nico was right when he was saying about the reason why he had more tyre deg than his teammate Piastri in that first stint, because obviously following Verstappen so closely for so long. So not surprised he struggled with the car and losing his tyres beforehand of that of Piastri. So it's a reset now. Let's see how they get on.
Is it fair to say, Nico, that there's been some short-term gain here for Max Verstappen, but is there a bit of long-term pain coming his way by stopping as early as he did?
Yes, of course, but then again, it depends. If they've moved to doing more pit stops, then we still don't know if that might actually today then be the quicker strategy or not. It all remains to be seen, but at the moment everything looks right on plan for McLaren.
Antonelli, Kimi Antonelli, who's only been on these tyres for a lap, has enough grip to take the final corner much faster than Pierre Gasly, gets the overtake done, and the second time of asking behind him, Isaac Hadjar moves past Nico Hulkenberg and up into 9th. So there's places swapping around all the time because of this tyre offset that I keep talking about, where some drivers are on fresher tyres than others, and we might just get a mixture of 2 and 3 stop strategies here today, which will give us a lot more overtaking. We'll see things shake out a bit in the final stints, and we've still got a long way to go in this race. Lawson stuck behind Alex Albon down in 14th place currently. We're only on lap 24 out of 66. Who's playing the master stroke so far for you, Nico?
As I said, it's just difficult to say for now. Also, you won't see McLaren's pace now, because again, this is the first couple of laps where they really need to manage the tires, because it then helps you extend the stint so much. You really need to be careful not to spike those temperatures too high in these first laps after the pit stop, so you won't see their potential yet.
So I want to see that again. Liam Lawson thinks that Alex Albon should be giving the place back, and Alex Albon thinks that he was pushed off a bit. There, snapping away at the rear wing of Liam Lawson's Racing Bulls is Fernando Alonso, and do you know what? If he can get ahead of the New Zealand driver, then that's going to be very difficult for Alex Albon to give the place back to Liam Lawson. But hopefully we'll see a replay of the incident in a moment, as into the pits comes Yuki Tsunoda in the second Red Bull. Is Lawson going to have a go down the inside? Albon moves to cover that off in the turn one. Lawson tries to dance around the outside and does so. Quick step from Liam Lawson up into 12th. Fernando Alonso is waiting to pounce there. Was that a bit of bodywork that just came off as Alonso goes past
Albon's front wing. Albon's front wing end plate is missing, so I think they collided once again. So Albon would need another front wing, because this would be his second one already this race.
Yeah, I was going to say,
terrible to collide again.
The one he started with got changed, and he might need to change again. Front wing damage, says Alex Albon. Liam and the stewards are investigating a turn one incident between Albon and Lawson. Let's have a look at it. On board with Liam Lawson.
Yeah, I mean, Liam's doing everything. Oh, this is a prior one, huh?
Yeah.
Dive bombs it. It's his corner. And then Albon stays in front or what on the exit. No, that's not on. So Albon should have let him past, because Liam did everything perfectly. Dive bombed in, was ahead. It's his corner. Alex needs to yield. You know, he needs to yield and back out, and then he cannot stay in front afterwards. So, oh my goodness, this is a total day to forget for Alex, who's crashing here as well again.
That's the second part where we saw the bodywork coming off.
A day to forget for him and for Williams.
Trouble with that escape route is it can actually be faster to rejoin the track.
Well, as we saw just now.
Yeah. So he's complied with the rules about where you need to rejoin. It's just he was still ahead of the car that, you rightfully say, Nico, did have the corner and should have had the advantage. 5 seconds out in front, Max Verstappen leads from Oscar Piastri. Verstappen on the soft tyre, Piastri and Norris switching on to the mediums for this second stint. Bernie, to you.
Yeah, just a quick one, Crofty. Watch out for Leclerc. Leclerc in this, exactly because of Nico said. He's on 8-lap hold mediums. He's actually 4 to 5 tenths quicker than the two McLarens at this stage. So I think he has a good chance of finishing ahead of Verstappen, because he's on that two-stop strategy, and he has the other medium to go to. So the medium working really well at this stage. Verstappen losing time to the 3 cars behind at the moment.
I suppose it depends, Bernie, if Max Verstappen can extend this current stint and try for a 2-stopper, but do we think a 3-stopper is more likely from our current race leader?
I think for Verstappen it will be more likely, because he's carrying significant degradation. The tyre is going off, getting slower by 1/10 a lap, and that's quite significant. Verstappen stopping 9 laps earlier, that's 9/10 of degradation over the two McLarens on that soft tyre. So I think it's looking like a 3-stop for Verstappen at this stage against the 2 stops of Ferrari and McLaren.
Hadjar and Gasly are getting very close to each other once again, as we see him try and go around the outside.
Wow, very fair play from Gasly there. I think the camaraderie from last night's win of PSG is still playing out there. They're still very friendly out there from last night. So he let him pass. He let him pass very kindly.
They're inseparable.
This is painful. What? So because Sainz and Albon are really in the same place on the track, they just said, okay, Albon.
Yeah, but what they've done, I'll just interrupt you there. They told him to box to retire the car. Then the stewards decided there was a 10-second time penalty for Alex Albon. So he's come in and he's served that 10-second time penalty, and I would imagine will be retiring from the race at the end of this lap. Otherwise, that time penalty carries on to Canada for the next race.
You are right. What a horrible Sunday that is. Oh my goodness. And even to get the message that it's going so bad, Alex, that just retire and come into the pits and give up. And we'll let your teammate who's right next to you have any chance of scoring points, perhaps, if everything goes right.
It's not a bad Saturday, is it, for Nico Hülkenberg? Getting some overtaking done, running here in the top 9 once again. He's managed to get past Pierre Gasly.
It's so hard to drive, like, can't brake, and then have no turning. It looks needed.
And those two McLarens are starting now to reel Max Verstappen in. Look, the gap's gone down to 3.5 seconds. Verstappen over Piastri as the England football team, as you saw, watching on from the garages, guests of Formula One here this afternoon. They're in Barcelona to play Andorra next Saturday. Harry Kane was asked, is that match going to be a formality, maybe like a McLaren 1-2? Well, it's not a formality for McLaren currently, but in a way that Kane would like to break down the Andorran defence on Saturday, it seems McLaren are starting to break down the resilience and the defence of Max Verstappen in the Red Bull out in front.
Yeah, McLaren are really upping the pace now. All the sectors are going green and the lap times are coming down, and Max's tire is going off now at this point in time. So he really has to deploy all his magic at the moment to try and eke out every single possible potential from these tires, but it's going to be tough.
And that is Alex Albon, I'm afraid, retiring from this race for his first DNF at a Spanish Grand Prix. As expected, he did one more lap and then came in. Plenty of damage on that Williams car and running towards the back. This was the moment where he lost out to Liam Lawson and lost quite a bit of his front wing end plate as well.
Not a good weekend from Alex, you know, and we praised him so much. He's done such a fantastic season so far. He already messed up yesterday in qualifying, which put him out of the top 10, even though he should have been within.
Into the pits comes our race leader, Max Verstappen. Slams on the brakes. He said he was having trouble braking and was having difficulty getting that Red Bull slowed down to 80 kilometers an hour. Stops now as Piastri goes through, Norris goes through, Leclerc goes through as well into third place. Verstappen should come out in fourth. There's Lewis Hamilton making his way around the final corner and down the straight. Now Verstappen can get his foot down. This is going to be a bit closer than Red Bull would have liked here. Verstappen out onto the track. Hamilton towards turn one, needed about 3 more car lengths and he would have been alongside the Red Bull.
Wow, that was okay. In hindsight, brilliantly timed for a Red Bull. It was very tight, but fantastic job.
Well, you think one more tenth in that pit stop, and they would have been neck and neck.
Yeah, of course. And then you lose 2 seconds of race time because you get stuck behind Lewis. It takes you time to overtake. So it's very, very critical for your race time.
That's pitted. That means he's on a 3. We're happy with our plan.
So Norris, and we would imagine Piastri with a 2-stop, Max Verstappen on a 3-stop, so says Will Joseph, race engineer.
Wow, I've just turned around and Bernie has her full intelligence, she has 7 computer screens on. Yeah. this is absolutely epic.
Yeah, I can't cope with that level of multitasking, quite frankly. It's spreadsheet, race data, traces, onboards, you name it. She's got the full Monty with her, has Bernie Collins, and maybe Alex Albon could come and join her at Sky Race Control. It's been a bit of a wretched weekend for him, really. Lewis Hamilton's going to come under pressure, I think, from George Russell in a few moments. Russell's got 4-lap fresher tyres than Hamilton, and he's been making inroads into Hamilton's advantage in the last few laps. Out in front, the gap between Piastri and Norris is now 5 seconds, and the race leader and the man in second have it under control.
Just no good, mate. There is nowhere today. Understood.
And
That's a heartbreak. It's a heartbreak for Lewis. His teammate is disappearing into the distance. The teammate is already 12 seconds or 11 seconds down the road. It's such a horrible feeling inside the car to experience that. And now pressure from behind, it's starting to get threatened to lose further positions.
Oh, and there's contact there between Liam Lawson and one would imagine the Haas of Ollie Bearman. Bearman comes back out onto the track, still ahead of Liam Lawson. He's putting some work in today, is Lawson. Bearman up in 11th place. But he had to get out of that one before there was big contact that could have sent both of them spinning out of the Spanish Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, how many incidents has Lawson been involved in today? That's quite something, and his car is still in one piece.
Tell me about it.
But let's wait for the replay and let's see what happened.
He's driving into the scene of an incident. There's no Lawson's retreat going on here in Spain today. Let's have a quick look.
Here we go. So he's trying to go for the overtake, big DRS. Ollie Bearman doesn't close the door. He does a... Well, that's a dive bomb, but that's not good. He was way too far back, and he was just only ever so slightly alongside behind there, and that was really not a good job. And Ollie, we need to praise him because he really managed to avoid a big crash there. So that was a great job from Ollie there.
Front axle on the inside to the wing mirror of the car in front, and you've got right to the
That
corner.
needs to get a penalty. That needs to be a penalty.
Yeah?
Yeah.
For Lawson.
Yeah, because it's too far back.
Well, he's coming for it again here. Behrman looks to the left, and that's why he's trying to force Lawson, who would have had to have gone completely off the track, I think, to try and squeeze past there. That's been noted, the incident on the previous lap, by race controllers. Gasly, great stop there, 2.1 seconds. He stops, comes back out into this race ahead of Franco Colapinto, and Gasly switching in this stop to the medium tyre. He's run 2 softs and now a medium. Max Verstappen's fastest car on the track at the moment, and closing in at a rate of knots on Charles Leclerc, but that's what you would expect for a driver that's going to have 1 extra stop to the guys in front.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it to Bernie. Bernie, you can see Max's lap times now. Do McLaren need to be worried, or are they still looking really, really good with their strategy?
I think McLaren on the 2-stop strategy, they're hoping that this medium tyre...
2 seconds, Bernie.
Yeah, it's again like a clutch, well, same thing.
1973.
Yeah, maybe 74 now.
As they roll back the years and go through the history, 75-year history of the Formula 1 World Championship, Bernie.
Yeah, I don't think the shifts are that bad, but yes, Mac, I was just listening to Max complain about that. He is struggling a little bit out there, but I think they are on the 3-stop strategy, and I think McLaren and Leclerc still looking good to be ahead there. The only question mark is, there are some people further back. Hulkenberg, Behrman, 23-lap-old medium tyres. So now on lap 33, can Verstappen get these mediums in good enough condition to the end of the race? That's a big question.
But they've kept their options open, Red Bull. That would mean, to the end of the race, 36 laps on a set of medium tyres for Max Verstappen.
Difficult to say again, but he seems to be pushing a bit too much if he was trying to now get to the end of the race, because he's really flat out there, and his lap times are impressive at the moment.
The thing is, Nico, if he is going to stop again, it's going to be a hard or a soft. He hasn't got another set of mediums, Max Verstappen.
Yeah, but soft is fine for a short last stint, low fuel.
Here's Alonso as we look further, sorry, Bortoleto as we look further back on Carlos Sainz. And Bortoleto now down in 14th. After running in the top 10 for a while, there's a gap there for him to drive through.
Yeah, mate, that's 33 laps complete, 33 remaining, all to play for, all to play for.
Was that a hidden message? Your stint is 33 laps. You're going to have to make it work.
Possibly.
With this set of tyres.
But I think if he does that, the tyres are going to be degrading faster than Max Verstappen, you know, put a qualifying lap in Suzuka. By the end of this. Bortoleto and Sainz having a great old scrap here, and the Sauber driver gets a round of applause from his crew, but not from his big boss Mattia Binotto, and moves up into 13th. I think there's a big snap of oversteer, wasn't it, out the final corner for Carlos Sainz, and Bortoleto took advantage, and right behind these two is Esteban Ocon, just lurking with Yuki Tsunoda coming into view too.
Lando Leclerc is 4.9 behind. Verstappen is 8. Verstappen will be in our race. Keep finding some pace.
Interesting. So McLaren are keeping an eye on Verstappen.
Yeah.
And taking him very seriously at the moment.
So what they're basically saying is Max's pace, if he carries on like this, he is going to be right with us in the final stint. Max doesn't have to stop again. The top 3 will all stop again. The question is, will Max Verstappen stop again? And the assumption is that he's on a 3-stop strategy here, but they might decide they don't want to lose 22 seconds at Red Bull, and they can manage the tyres enough so that 22 seconds can disappear, and then, yeah, it is all to play for.
The hard thing for a Red Bull is they have to decide now, because Max is the one who needs to manage it out there. Should he be taking it easy now to nail that 33-lap stint in the best possible way, or should he be pushing flat out now to get through Leclerc and catch up to Norris, etc.? That's a decision Red Bull has to make kind of now.
And then we can push the tyre a little bit more in high speed, turn 3, turn 9. I can't push my front left, man. It's great.
Here's Max Verstappen on Charles Leclerc down the main straight. The Ferrari is easily bypassed with 25 kilometres of extra pace with DRS by Max Verstappen, who's back up into the top 3. And Lando Norris is being urged to go a little bit faster in some of these faster corners, because Verstappen is very much on McLaren's radar here. And we're just over half race distance as well. Out in front, Piastri, I think, has a little bit more room to manoeuvre and a bit easier to breathe, but Norris knows that Verstappen is going to be with him. That must be a horrible feeling. Pitbull saying push a bit harder, and you know you've not got the grip to do it.
Absolutely, that's not a very good feeling. And just for some context, turn 3 and 9 are the highest speed corners, except for the last one, and that's where, usually as a driver, because that's where the most energy goes into the tires, it's where you save the tires most. So usually it's also the place where pretty easily you could just go a little bit faster if the team wants you to push the tires more. So it's a bit concerning there that Lando said he's got graining and he's on the limit already.
Oscar Piastri is coming up to the back of Pierre Gasly to try and lap him as Ollie Behrman stops. There's Piastri just going through. There's Lando Norris looming into view behind. There, getting past Franco Colapinto and lapping him is Max Verstappen. Behrman comes out in 16th behind Gasly ahead of Colapinto. Just out in front, Lando Norris has just taken half a second out of Piastri's advantage on this latest lap, on lap 36 of this race. That's as close to his teammate as he's been for quite some time.
Yeah, and another 4/10 now, just in the first sector.
5.5 seconds was the gap when they came out of the pits, Piastri and Norris. This is either management going on from Piastri or Norris being told to pick up the pace and finding that extra pace, and Piastri not able to respond if he needs to.
It's very hard when you're out there. You don't know how much is your teammate pushing on a scale from 1 to 10.
Okay, George, let's start to close up this gap now.
And that's the gap. That's the gap to Lewis Hamilton. He's settled back about 2 and a bit seconds off the rear wing of Hamilton, just to keep his tyres a little bit cooler. Max Verstappen will be with Lando Norris in 6 laps' time, says the predicted strategy. And I wonder how many laps before Lando Norris is right behind Oscar Piastri. Gasly has now been lapped by Piastri. When you lap in these cars as well, you're having to move over onto the marbles, and that's not very helpful.
No, of course, it's so important to try and stay away from the marbles now. And let's just look at that last lap time. Norris was again 0.8 quicker than Piastri on that last lap. Bernie, perhaps you can give us some input there as well.
Yeah, I was just going to come in a bit, Nico. So to simplify,
33 laps on a set of medium tyres.
Get McLaren's to stop a bit earlier than they think is totally comfortable for the last stint on soft. Then it's in Verstappen's hand. He can stop earlier and undercut if that opportunity